the closer you can be to your real self when you're playing a character, the more natural it comes off. So every character we play, at least for me, there's an element of me in there somewhere. And so that keeps it grounded and makes it real. It doesn't sound like I'm reciting or reading. So, but yeah, I use as much close to my regular voice as possible, and then just add an affectation to it. Rick is just me up here. You know, Ukiora is me down here. But it's the same.
It's your morning voice.
Yeah. A lot of times, you know, I'm sure there are lots of opportunities to do wacky, crazy voices, you know. But a lot of what voice acting is, especially in this particular genre, voice acting is just acting, you know. And so you may have to be doing a role that's really not that far off your normal speaking voice, but you're bringing that character to life, still being acting and bringing that script to life.
I think Leia from Tales of Xillia is probably closer to my natural voice because it's her when I get really it's me when I get really excited, and I have a lot of energy. I get very enthusiastic, and that's just me when I get super excited. So whenever I hear it, it makes me very happy because it sounds good, and it's just me being me naturally. So I think that's always fun. Just to point out that there's an awesome Ladybug cosplayer. You look fantastic. I should take a picture of you for Christina B. She'll love that. I see another name. Oh, let's get to you in 1 second, but you have not asked a question.
Are there any voice actors that you look up to and or envy?
Are there any voice actors you look up to and or envy?
Yes, Tony Oliver. I was serious. I do look up to Tony in several ways. As a director, as an actor, this man is incredibly talented, and he's also a fantastic human being. So, but other actors, Steve Bloom is a good friend, and he is a fantastic actor, and he's been nothing but supportive. Everybody that I know in this industry is very supportive, and that's what I love about the community, is that we're all very supportive of each other. Mark Hamill, of course. Jim Cummings, who is also a great guy. We did a very fun panel a couple years ago at ConnectiCon. You guys might have seen the video. It's of him reading Darth Vader's Winnie the Pooh. Was it on Reddit? Probably. It was probably on Reddit. But that went viral, and he and I were texting each other back and forth like, hey, our video went viral, and he's like, we blew up the internet. It's really funny. Let's see, who else?
David Vincent. Go ahead and say it.
David Vincent. I'm sorry, Mr. Clean. Oh gosh, so many people. I was a huge fan of gargoyles back in the day. So, and everybody in that cast is absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that half of that cast is the Star Trek Next Generation cast. I find that awesome. I'm going to think of more people. What about you, Dave? And Tony?
Well, number one, I consider myself very lucky to be doing what I do for a living, and so I embrace all of my colleagues. They're just wonderful people to work with. One of my idols, I should say, that modern day idols, I should say, would be Dan Castellaneta, who does the voice for Homer Simpson and all those other voices on The Simpsons. I look at that dude, and he's just one of the most remarkable, talented guys. He's a vocal chameleon, and that's what I absolutely just admire about his work. It's amazing.
For me, it's absolutely Steve, to the point where I've gone up on roles up against him when I didn't know I was up against him. But I look at the part and I'm going, how's Steve play this? And even though we don't have the same voice, I would play it that way. And occasionally I get the part, which is kind of fun. Steve Tom Kinney, he's a lot more than SpongeBob. He's a remarkable actor, and he's a really good guy. And Kevin Michael Richardson, another sweetheart. These are people that are not on you don't hear, but I hear them work, and they are remarkable people. And there was, I don't even know his name. I walked in when I was doing Lupin a couple months ago. We had to move to another studio. We had to wait for somebody to get done because it's an animation they were doing there that stars Tom Felton and Draco Malfoy. So he had just finished, but they had to do one more little piece. And this actor, who I know he's been around forever, I just don't know his name, I watched him do this remarkable piece of dubbing. It was almost a minute long, and he would hit lines and hit reactions and dialogue, and then drum back in, and it's changing speeds and all this stuff. He's dubbing this, and he did it in one take.
Wow.
And I just wanted to like bow and kiss his knees, you know, it's like that. So I don't know who he is, but God, he's great.
That's awesome.
Yes, my lady.
For you guys as voice actors, when you see like a lot of actors who are being used for voice acting roles just because of their names, how does that make you feel as voice actors where maybe a voice actor could have done a better job?
You mean celebrities?
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I don't care what the name is, as long as the performance is good. As long as the performance is good for the character. Like in House Moving Castle, Crispin Freeman, he had the role of Turnip Head, which was awesome, which of course we don't know until the end, but it's awesome. And I know that from being in the anime and video game community, I was like, hey, pride, all that fun stuff. But I mean, it's sometimes, honestly, if I'm speaking honestly, sometimes it can be a bummer because we have a whole community filled with incredibly talented people. Not that those actors are not talented, most of them are, but sometimes, I think a lot of us will be thinking, oh, I wish I could be in that, or I would love to be in that. But for me personally, as long as the performance is right for the character, that's what I care about.
Yeah, the reality is on a lot of this stuff, the money doesn't come unless there's what they call bankable name, somebody that people will recognize. So that is the reality. What I get upset with is when the studio becomes obsessed with that. So it has even the little parts have to be big celebrity names. First of all, it costs a lot of money. Second of all, the kids especially we're doing kids stuff, Disney stuff, the kids don't care. The kids care that it's a great part when it comes out. All of that said, I've also had the privilege to direct a lot of celebrities into dubs and into animes. And some of them, they bring some of them, not all of them, bring something intangible, a little something, whatever it was that made them what they are now, or given them longevity, and you can't really put your finger on it. So as long as they have that with you, as long as they have that, and it's not just a dumb casting because it's a name, which it is. I mean, even the movie that I directed with celebrities, there was a few people that were casted, and I was going, God, I love you on screen, but I can't stand you in the booth. So it's just the reality of the business. And interestingly enough, celebrities are starting to make their way into dubbed products. And I just directed Patrick Warburton in a dub about a month and a half ago. So he's the last night he was speaking. I watched him on a sitcom that night and directed him that morning. So it's happening, but he's also a good actor. He deserves it. I had a few that didn't. So.
But how many times in your career have you, like, how much have you had to improvise?
The question is that we have scripts to do, but how often have we had to work with that to improvise?
Well, tons and tons. Not necessarily when you're playing in anime specifically. I'll be specific. For anime specifically, if you are doing a character, you have to match that lid flap. So there's pretty much zero room for ad-lib. However, usually in sessions, once you finish that character, if you finish early, then the director will ask you to do what's called walla. And walla is the background chatter in whatever scene it is. And that's nothing to improvise. They just give you, say, discuss this and go. Okay, so it can get really awkward because sometimes you've got like a minute or whatever of just trying to come up with something to say. But I took a lot of improv classes as well, so you roll with it. But with that, yes, with commercials, radio spots, we've got tons of, we have improvised all the time. But for video games and for dubbing specifically, there's really not a lot of room unless it's wall.
Also, the scripts scripts go through an enormous amount of legality, they go through lawyers, they go through, so they have to be, so you start changing stuff in the script, producers can get upset with you. Because they've just gone through 6 weeks of trying to get the damn thing approved, and now you're changing it. So, yeah, that's part. Yes.
Is there a pay difference when you're doing original scripts or when you're doing dubbing?
Yes, about 10 times different. Yeah, the original stuff, if it's union. Original materials pay roughly 8 times more than anime does. Something in the neighborhood of that per hour. Right? It's remarkably different. Video games, the same. Even non-union video games pay a lot more. It's like 3 times, 2.5, 3 times what non-union anime does. So what's weird though is right now non-union anime is paying better than union anime. So that's really confusing the hell out of me about that. So,
The differences between original scripts and
well, in terms of pay.
When you go and watch somebody do like a sub, like you watch some anime and you go to do a voice acting and you see the lights change, how weird is that to you?
So the question was regarding to if we were to watch an anime in the original Japanese and then we go in to record it and the line is completely different. The writing is 9 times out of 10 going to be a little different from the original translation because if we were to literally translate word for word what they use in the Japanese to the English, most of the time it would not make any sense and it wouldn't fit. So I think if we always stuck with the exact translation of what the Japanese did, which most of the time we try and stay as close to the original Japanese as we possibly can. Not only because for the story and to make sure it fits and all of that to keep up with the content and the context, but also out of respect for the Japanese as well. But sometimes we have to change things, and I wouldn't say it's weird.
Well, no, because you also understand that if you look at a translation and the subtitles, they're also different. Because the subtitles are limited by the amount of time and words they can put on the screen and the time they have to do it, so they shortchange it. I actually had to dub adapt a Spanish film into English. I speak Spanish, so I could see the original Spanish translation. I saw that, and it had nothing to do with what the subtitles were, and then what the actual line was even a little different than that. So, so it doesn't. I never watch the subs. If I'm gonna watch it before I direct it, I'm going to have the translation next to me, the original translation, not the subtitles, and I'll watch it that way, so I'm getting the full thing. So, we don't really work with the subs in the studio.
I've got a question for you two. How much inspiration do you take from the Japanese voice actors? If he says a Japanese equivalent, like I heard you're putting up to Crystal. Are you going to listen to the Japanese version?
I just want to make sure. I don't think that I've been confirmed for Crystal. I mean, I would assume so, but I'm always playing it safe and saying I'm guessing. But we are currently recording S of the original show. With that, the only reason why I happen to be familiar with the original Japanese actress is because I watched the show way back in the day, way before they had dubbed it, and so I am somehow familiar with that. But I think in general, your question was,
How much do you take any inspiration from the way the Japanese voice actors or actresses do it?
oh, absolutely, we have to, because that's what we're matching our voices to, and not only that, but again, it's really out of respect for the original Japanese. So.
In the dubbing process, we we do a line by line, one line at a time. And first thing we do is we preview the Japanese, and then we back up, and then we record that line one at a time. So it's a constant search for the balance between accessible English-speaking culture and bringing the Japanese intent and their culture into what we're doing, and we couldn't possibly do that without previewing the Japanese. It would be very disrespectful anyway to do that. Which is, by the way, how we used to do it way back in the 80s, and I was involved in that, and I apologize.
I think we've all seen the 80s early 90s stuff, so we don't like anybody.
Good enough.
I actually, adding to that, unless you had something to say, I didn't want to cut you off. There was an anime back in the day called Ayashi no Seris. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but there are some cases where things are tweaked a little bit. For example, in a lot of the contemporary shows, they'll talk about, I don't know, the original sub, they'll talk about a pop idol that's famous in Japan. Well, most of the time, we don't know who that pop idol is, so sometimes the writer or director will change it to, or I don't know if they do this now, but back then they used to change it to somebody that we as Americans can identify with. So back in the day, this sub, there's an old woman that's incredibly ugly, and she says, "You hate me because I look like so and so." I don't remember who the pop idol was in Japan, but in English, she said, "You hate me because I look like this. Why don't you think that I look like Britney Spears," or something like that. And sometimes in that sense, I think it's okay, but it really depends. And it shouldn't be held as it shouldn't be in a disrespectful way, though. It should be as this might identify more with American audiences.
I actually, something, I guess, kind of similar to that. I worked on a show called Fate Zero, and then Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Course, which Tony Oliver did an amazing job directing. And yes, to back what they say, yeah, we do definitely pay attention to what the Japanese actor does. However, in the previous Fate Stay Night, a remarkably talented actor named Grant George played the part that I was playing in the next one, in Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Course. I very specifically made it a point to not watch him, because I didn't want him influencing anything that I did with that character, and I paid 110% to what Tony directed me to do through both of those series. Interesting little comment. Yes?
Out of all the W projects y'all have done, what was the hardest one that each of y'all did?
Out of all the W projects we've done, which is the hardest one we've all done?
Out of the 200 and plus ones that you've done.
Well, as a director, Fate Zero. It was so hard in a good way. I mean, it was satisfying. It was so difficult to do.
It was exciting to know how excited we were about that project. It was so fun working with him because he was so enthusiastic about that project.
And it was because there's so many layers, so much is unsaid, so much of the story is played behind the eyes of the character. And that's really hard to do, and all you have is a voice and a picture. As an actor, oh gosh, I don't know. They're all a little hard. It's actually a character that I played that was not an anime. It was an original cartoon called Romini, which I never really played here, mostly played in Canada. And I had to play this villain. And I'm talking about all this layered acting and all this stuff, and I went into the studio and I would play this very low voice like this. And I'm trying to give them all sorts of subtext and stuff like this. And they go, "Tony, stop, cut, what the hell are you doing?" So I'm trying to give them some subtext and just be loud and pissed off. And that's what I did. And it was difficult because what I wanted to do was give them all sorts of layers, and what they wanted me to do was be loud and pissed off. So that was hard in the other direction.
There's two that come to mind. The first was a video game called Dragon Guard 3. That was so much fun to do, so much fun. I played a character called One in that, and she is one of the big bosses at the end of the game. So much fun to play because she has two different personalities almost. She's very monotone for the majority of the game, and then when you get to her, she just decides to start screaming nonstop. And by nonstop, I mean literally nonstop. And my voice was pretty thrashed by the end of that session. But it was so much fun. It was so worth it. The second being, and I again apologize for any spoilers, but it's been out for 2 years, so if you haven't seen it. The female Titan in Attack on Titan, when she screams, that was very difficult because there are all different kinds of screams that you can do. That was a back of the throat, vocal cords vibrating. Yeah, it was very bad because it had to be animalistic and gritty and dirty and all of that. Mike McFarlane, the voice director of Attack on Titan, he did not want any cleanliness at all within those screams, and I had to do 3 in a row. And then there's a big battle in the final episode between myself and another very big Titan. And there's a scene, there's a part where he grabs her face and basically squeezes it off. And she's of course shrieking in pain, and that was pretty brutal. And even though there's a filter on it, you could hear that I was my vocal cords were wanting to die, pretty much. You can hear it. But again, I end up loving how it sounds, so.
I just did a show last week, and it was with a different studio that I normally work with. Whenever you're dubbing anime specifically, there's a very specific method, regardless of whether you're in Dallas or LA. It's a pre-beep system, and you move along. I was working on a show last week at a different studio that typically doesn't dub. And this show is called Open and Even, and I play this character, Jarji, who's a 12-year-old talking like this. And so for like 4 hours straight, I'm trying to follow and it's a 3D animated show, and so it's not the anime where it's, the lip flap that it can forgiving a little, at least. This one, the words are like, the mouths are moving, and so you have to match exactly what's going on. And following that without that beat system, they just didn't have it set. And so I literally, for 4 hours, had to record, I had tons of dialogue to get through, and without having that, it was probably one of the most challenging dub sessions I've ever done.
On top of that, following that, there was a character that I played. It was a tiny little character. I don't remember what game it was, a long time ago. She was a plumber. She was this nerdy plumber who spoke with a speech impediment. When you talk like this for 4 hours, your tongue gets really tired after a while. And after a while, I had to take a break because it just wasn't coming out right. So that was pretty tiring, very difficult.
I just played a little dog with a lisp not too long ago.
So I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to be the last question and make it a good
Pressure's
one?
on.
What line and for one of your characters felt off? What was the worst dialogue, basically, you've ever
Did
read?
we ever feel any forced dialogue with any of our characters?
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a worse. You kind of move on from those. I mean, it's sometimes there's just weird lines that pop up, and often you think they're very strange, and then they turn out to be kind of the one thing you get remembered for. So I don't remember anything. I remember stumbling when I did Blaze Blue. I was still on that show. I had no idea what was going on, and they brought me up, and they just put a script in front of me, and just read the whole page down, just all my dialogue. And at the very bottom, I had to say, and we're going to have a bang, spanking good time. What the hell did I just say? So those are the kind of things where it was just really odd dialogue, but it turned out in the context it was very funny and it worked, and now it's something that comes up a lot.
Just as a quick little comment, I don't know of any force, actually I do. Blaze Blue, have no idea what the hell it means. I thought of a character that I absolutely adore you as, Tony, and I don't remember his name. I think it's Shinkai from Redline.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, so funny.
Big lizard.
A big lizard who is just so funny. He's a mechanic. He is hilarious. If you have not seen the anime movie Redline, please go see it. It is beautiful. It's amazing, and every single person that I know is in this movie. It's fantastic, and it's so good. And it took 7 years to make because it's 100% hand drawn. So it's beautiful. Dave, any force lines?
All of them. I just fake it. No, I'm just kidding. No. You say so many of them, I can't remember. Here's my favorite line to say. It's called the Standard 102, remember that?
I call that in the classes, I call it the secret anime sound, because you only hear it anime. It's the tofu of anime. It's the tofu sound. So whatever emotion you put on, surprised, scared, happy, it's no matter what you do.
What else do we have on our schedules today?
Oh, good thinking.
So, thank you, I tried. I know that I have an Attack on Titan panel later today from 3 to 4, I believe. But, and then we have autographs at 7 to 8:30. But David and I are actually going to be at a table right over in the dealer's hall. It's very close to the entrance. You can find us there. But you two gentlemen, you have interesting panels today.
Yeah, at 1 o'clock over in panel 1, in here. Next door. Okay, I'm going to be doing a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the beginning panel. I have video, I have the original auditions, I have a lot of stuff with my own personal stash that we'll be showing and talking about. At 3:30, I'm going to be doing an Adventures in Voice Acting mini voice acting workshop. And it's basically it comes with tips and stuff on what to do, and I have some scripts, let some people come up and try and play around with some voice acting. And then of course, and then autographs tonight. So that's the day for me.
Okay, and then I'm gonna just really quickly tell you, if you're serious about voice acting, go to his workshop. He's a wonderful director. I've worked with you on a ton of projects over the years. We've been working together for 10 years now. And he's a fantastic director, so seriously, if you're interested in voice acting, I highly recommend going to his workshop. I have got my David Vincent voice actor tryout panel at 1:30.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun because basically I torture you. And I give away prizes, so of course you can. Anybody's welcome. And then Laura and I have Blaze Blue at 4:30. Okay. Real quick, before we leave, I'm doing a charity thing with Skype. It's going to be for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. We're basically going to you enter, only 10 people will be chosen, but I will do a one-on-one Skype session with you for a donation of $20 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. If anybody is interested in signing up for the chance, please come and see me. I'm going to be standing in that corner back there, and I'll sign you up. You can enter for a chance to do that Skype session with me, okay? Does that sound good?